Hello again. Thank you for your patience. We're back on. I've got our first batch out, our second one in. So hopefully you can hear us better now with the better microphone. Okay. So thanks for your patience. This is all kind of new to us, but we will figure it out. Okay. So we're spinning these around. We're getting some nice color on it, some nice caramelization. Excuse me. How's everybody doing? We're going on to, I think, week 3 now, isn't it? Week 3 that we've been isolated here. I don't know where you're at, but we're just outside Toronto, and yeah, we're in our 3rd week. So the kids, Laura's in high school. They were to have March break for 1 week, and then they extended that another 2. So this is now our 3rd week, I guess, right? Man, it's actually gone by pretty fast, don't you think? Okay, so our chicken has got some lovely color on it, so I'm going to remove it now. Okay, so I said it was a 2-part cooking method, so that's part 1. So part 1 is getting some color on this chicken and kind of starting the process. Okay, now let me just give this a wipe. So you want to check the fat now. Okay, so we need about a 1/4 cup of olive oil down there. Okay, so if you need to add a little bit more to top it up, go ahead. Mine is fine, so I'm going to leave it the way it is. Okay, now we're wiped up. Okay, so to this now, we're going to add our chopped onion. Now I turn that off, but the pan is still really, really hot. This will be for you. And actually, I'm going to go on about a medium heat. We're going to add our carrots. Can you grab that garlic for me, Diana? And we're just going to basically sweat this out. I don't have any celery here, but if you want to add celery, you can. Typically, it's carrots, onion, celery, but this is just a personal preference. I'm not crazy about celery with tomatoes and chicken for some reason. So, but if you want to add it, by all means, or if you're missing one of these items, maybe add the celery to get some flavor. So I have got onions, carrots, and garlic in here, and I can smell it already. Can you smell it? Good, eh? So, okay, so what we want to do is we want to sweat these out, okay? So we're not browning them. I'm on about a medium heat. My pan was really hot already. So to sweat this, basically you want it limp, fragrant, and translucent. We don't want it brown, okay? If onions or garlic gets brown, it can sometimes get a little bitter, all right? So we just want to sweat it nicely so it's going to develop some flavor. So we're going to keep moving it. And this dish kind of develops flavor over time. So you could very easily make it ahead and then just let it cool down and then keep it in the fridge and then serve it up the next day. Okay, so we're just sweating it. Almost done here. Really the onions and the garlic will kind of be your indicator. A little shout out to my husband for that amazing garlic. That's from our garden. It's still hanging on there in our cold cellar. Before we know it, it'll be time for new garlic. Can't wait. You know, there's a saying that if there's a garden, there's hope. And I firmly believe in that. I actually, before the class started today, I ran out just to see what I had, if any, in the way of herbs. And I know it's crazy. It's only just the 1st of April today. And like I said, I am just outside of Toronto. But believe it or not, I found some thyme. So I pulled them out. You probably can't see this, but there are some little green sprouts on here of thyme, and it smells amazing. Can you smell that? Doesn't that smell awesome? So I was really excited to find that. I also found some fresh oregano in the grocery store. Our grocery stores have been really low on fresh herbs, so I was really surprised to find that fresh oregano the other day. So I just picked it up because they had it. But like I said, if you only have dried oregano for this, that's fine. And that's what it's all about. It's all about adapting to what you have on hand. Okay, so that is now sweated out nicely. It's got a beautiful aroma. It hasn't browned, which is nice. To this now, we're going to add our tomato paste. So remember I said, if you don't have tomato paste, this is triple concentrate Italian paste that comes in a tube, and you can see how nice and thick it is. So basically, tomato paste is very sweet, okay? So it's going to induce some more caramelization in here. So that's why we're going to add that. And I was saying earlier, if you don't have any tomato paste, you could actually substitute with a little bit of ketchup, because ketchup will be sweet. It won't be naturally sweet. There's actually sugar in it, but it'll kind of give you the same thing. And now you can see it's kind of getting darker in color. It might even stick a little bit on the bottom, which is absolutely fine.
If someone were to use ketchup, would they use the same amount as the tomato paste?
Yeah, about that. About that. You just want a little bit, and you want to really. So I'm going to let it kind of cook down. I want it to get really dark. And like I said, if it sticks, that's perfectly fine because that's just the beautiful caramelization. And then we're going to deglaze it with some wine. Okay. So if you don't have wine though, like I said, that's not a real problem because what you could do is you could use a little bit of chicken stock or vegetable stock. And I mean a little bit. So maybe like a quarter cup or even a couple of tablespoons even is fine. And if you didn't have any of that, you could even deglaze it with a little bit of water. Okay. So I do have some white wine. I like to use dry white wine. I don't like to use red wine for this just because chicken is a lightly colored meat and it'll darken up the sauce. You could probably use rosé if you have rosé. And if you wanted to use red, that's perfectly fine. But just keep in mind, it's going to be a little bit darker. It's going to stain your sauce a little bit. Okay, so now here's my white wine, and that's just like a Pinot Grigio. Okay, and now we're going to scrape up any brown bits that are left on the bottom. Oh, now it smells good, eh, Laura? Okay, so we're going to let that reduce by about a half. So basically, the alcohol is going to evaporate. It's going to become a really nice thick sauce, and we can smell that wine now. Okay, so once it reduces by half, or it evaporates by half, so if you have this much, and then it's going to go down to about half the size for the new cooks out there. Okay, it's going to thicken up nicely. And now the thing about a braised dish like this is we're starting to layer the flavors. We're doing everything in the same pot, including browning the chicken. And that's because we want to incorporate all those flavors. Okay, so that is about ready. You can see that it's really thickened up now. I wish you could smell it because it smells amazing. Okay, so now we're going to add our tomato. Okay, so if you were using fresh tomatoes like these, you could probably quarter those. So just cut them down into small pieces. It's going to take a little while longer for them to cook, obviously, because they're fresh. Whereas this will not take as long. Okay. So now there's one thing I want to add. Excuse me. Depending on how much sauce you want and how you're going to serve this, you may or may not choose to add the whole 28 ounces of tomatoes. If I were going to serve this with pasta or rice, or even polenta, something where I'd want a lot of extra sauce, especially for pasta, I would use the whole 28 ounces, okay? Now, if I wanted to make it a little bit thicker and just serve it with crusty bread, then you may choose to do less tomatoes, okay? So that's a personal preference as to how much sauce you actually need or want, okay? Because this particular amount of chicken here, like I said, that would serve anywhere between 3 and 4 people, I think. But we're going to be adding some more vegetables. I believe in stretching this out as best as we can. So, like I said, depending on how big of an eater you are. So you can look at anywhere from 3 to 4 people with this particular amount, but you could adjust it. Typically, my ratio of olive oil to 28-ounce tin of tomatoes is about a quarter cup of olive oil, okay? So if you were doubling this recipe to serve more people, then you'd want to use, obviously, a bigger pot. And you would have to increase your oil, your tomatoes. You might want to increase some of your chopped vegetables for flavor there as well. Okay, so now I've turned up the heat and I want to bring this basically up to a boil and I want to put my chicken pieces back in. Okay, so this is the second part of the cooking. So I said it was a 2-part method. So this is now a more humid type of cooking here with the liquid or with our sauce. Okay, and this is where it's going to really finish cooking. It's going to get really nice and tender and flavorful. Okay. So these are going to go in. If there's any liquid in here, it's a good idea to add that because there's always flavor in that. Okay, so Laura, I'm going to get you to take that, please, home. Thank you. Okay, and now we're going to cover everything in sauce. So I don't know if you can see that, but you want a pot that can kind of coat all of our chicken pieces. I'm going to turn it down now to a medium high, okay? And it might be different on your stove, but I'll show you what we're after. We want to cover it so it kind of gently simmers in there. So I'm not too worried about the number as I am so much as what's happening in the pot. So depending on the type of stove you have, the type of pot you have, that's going to vary. It may not look identical to what mine does. So let's let it just kind of settle down, and then we'll have a peek and I'll show you what we're looking for in terms of activity in the pot. Okay, so just a little simmer like that. I don't know, Steph, can you see that on there? Can you see how it's just little bubbles?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. So that's what we're looking for. So we're gonna close it up tight and we're gonna let it braise now in there, okay? So while that's happening, our focaccia, how's our focaccia doing?
We
How much
have a
time?
few more minutes left. You have
Oh.
6 minutes.
Oh, okay, perfect. Just enough time to finish off these other vegetables. Okay, tell you what, can you grab me a paper towel and I'll just give this a wipe? I was using this as a spoon rest. Can you give that a wipe out there? Thanks, hon. Okay, so I've got a non-stick frying pan here. It doesn't have to be non-stick, okay? And what I want to show you with this is now for our optional vegetables, okay? So I'm going to turn that on high, and I'm going to heat that up. Okay, so let's get this good and hot. Then we're going to add a little bit of the same olive oil. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to saute the peppers and the mushrooms, okay? So you might ask, well, why didn't we just add that in here? Well, typically the mushrooms and the peppers, they would start to fall apart and kind of lose their texture, and their flavor would just absorb all the flavor of the sauce. We want them to be still recognizable as peppers and mushrooms. So we're going to just saute them in the side pan, and we're going to add them to the chicken cacciatore just for the final minutes. Okay. So, so we've got that on high heat. Yeah, there we go. And then we're going to add just a little bit of olive oil. That's maybe, I don't know, maybe a half a tablespoon. And now I'm going to turn it down a little bit. And now I've got a clean wooden spoon here. We're going to add that. We're going to add our mushrooms. Like I said, these are optional. You could use a green sweet pepper. You could use a red, yellow, as you wish. There you go. And really, this is probably getting a little bit away from a traditional chicken cacciatore, but it's just my chicken cacciatore today and what I had and what was available, and you know, but it's all around the same kind of concept. So we are going to season this a little bit of salt. Is Dylan still there? Is he with us? Oh, you don't know. Who else? Anybody saying hi or anything?
Rose said hi.
Oh, hello,
Angela
Rose.
Said something earlier.
Who did? Sorry?
Angela.
Angela. Awesome. Great, ladies. Welcome. Okay, so all we're going to do is give these a little saute. Now, if these were raw mushrooms, they would take a little bit longer. So if they were raw mushrooms, I'd probably add the mushrooms totally on their own first, season them with salt and pepper. Then some of the liquid would be released. And then I'd wait for some of that liquid to be evaporated before I put in the peppers. Because this was a tin of mushrooms, I put those two in together because the mushrooms are practically cooked, right? Because they're processed in the tin. Okay, and then the peppers, we just want to get a little saute on these. Okay. Any questions so far? Does anybody have any questions? Or maybe is there some other vegetable that you put in your chicken cacciatore if you make it? Maybe we'll share that if anybody wants. Okay.
Rose said she missed the beginning. Did you use celery? If not, can you?
Yes, you certainly could use celery. I used carrots, onion, and garlic. And I was saying typically, you're right, typically it's carrots, onions, and celery. And that's just a personal choice for me. I actually have celery too, but for some reason, I don't like celery and tomatoes and chicken together. But I was saying, if you didn't have one of those aromatics, as we call them, kind of your sauce base, excuse me, then definitely by all means use celery. So if you didn't have garlic or onion, I would use celery for sure. But if you wanted to use all three of those plus garlic, that would be absolutely fine too. Because it's just a personal preference. Okay, Laura, what are you thinking? Is it looking good? So this here, when this is, and we're just really cooking this down. We're getting rid of any liquid. We're doing the seasoning, and then we're going to turn it off, and we're going to add it to this when it's fully cooked. Okay, this is actually going pretty hard. I'm going to turn it down a bit, and let's just give it a stir.
Would she fry them with the mushrooms or with the chicken?
Oh, the celery?
Mm.
I'd put it in with the carrots and the onions at the very beginning. Yeah, I wouldn't put the celery, definitely not in there. You want the celery to kind of fall apart in the sauce. And that's what, I don't know if you can see that, Rose. Can you see the little, so in there you can see we've got the carrot, the onion, and the garlic. Can you not see that? No? How about if I go close like that?
Yeah.
So basically, typically with a braise, it's not like a stew. So you don't have really big chunks of vegetables. You chop, so when I do my braised beef, for example, or ossobuco, you chop the carrot, celery, and onion and garlic really, really fine because you want it to kind of thicken your sauce and flavor your sauce. It's not like a vegetable, like a stew. Even beef bourguignon, the French version, is kind of more chunkier vegetables. Do you want to get those, Sugar? Thank you. Excuse me, I'm just going to put that there. Okay. So yeah, this would be just any kind of different vegetables. I mean, you could almost do anything like this and add it in. If you had, if you had some cauliflower and you wanted to do cauliflower, you could saute some. Or if you wanted to add a green vegetable, just put that on the burner. If you wanted to add a green vegetable, you could. Peppers and mushrooms just go really nice with this flavor combination with the chicken and the tomatoes and the wine and the garlic. It just goes well. And you can see we're starting to get a little bit of color on this. So this is just about done. Okay. Now with this, you can see it's reducing. The oil is starting to pool a little bit on the top. So that means the tomato is getting cooked. Okay. But of course, the big thing is we want to make sure the chicken's cooked. Okay, so you could use a thermometer to check that, or you could take out a piece and cut it and have a look in it. I'm just going to reference my chart because there may be some Americans. So poultry pieces, 74 degrees Celsius or 165 degrees Fahrenheit internal temperature. Okay, so I have a chart from the health department on my wall, and it's a real handy thing to have. If you go to your health unit in whatever your town, if they have a website, they'll probably have that information on there. That's for from the health department. I'm a health inspected kitchen here, so we abide by all the health rules. You're gonna go check the focaccia? Okay, good. So you want to make sure the chicken is cooked. Okay, on the bone, it's going to take a little bit longer. If you were doing a boneless, skinless, say chicken breast pieces, it's going to be a lot quicker. Okay. I think I'm going to turn this off because I think that's done.
What's the oven set to?
I'm set to 450.
No, what setting?
Oh, convection. Yeah, that one. Do you want to turn off the? Yeah.
Yep.
No, it's still going to be.
I know. 1 second.
Okay. Laura's just checking our focaccia. Okay, so the potatoes. I want to address the potatoes. So if you want to use potatoes, typically there are not potatoes in chicken cacciatore. But I think, why not? If you want to add some starch and you don't want to do pasta, maybe you're gluten-free. So this would be a gluten-free option. Oh, wow, look, show it up to the garden. So look, it's got a nice little color to it. It's still, you know what? It feels like it still needs a little bit. We're going to have to get the thermometer in there, but let's put it back in for let's go for another 5 or 6 minutes. And then we'll check it with the thermometer. Okay, so getting back to the potatoes. So if you want to use potatoes, what I would do is when the chicken's about halfway cooked, which is probably about now here, I'm not going to add these. I'm going to do mine without potatoes. Or actually, should I? Should I put the potatoes in? What do you think? Stefano, what do you think? Are we going to do potatoes tonight? I only have 4 potatoes in my whole house, okay? And there's 6 of us here. So we'll be fighting over the potatoes. I guess maybe we will. We'll add the potatoes. We'll each get a piece, and then plus we'll have some bread, and it's all good, right? Okay, so let's add them, and then I'll show you. So the concern is, though, of course, you want to make sure they can fit in the pot, okay? And I think actually they will. So what I want to do is, I'm just going to move. You could just pour them in, but what I want to do is I want to tuck them in so there's room, and I want them covered with the sauce. But then I also want to add a little bit more liquid so the potatoes can cook, because they're going to need a little bit more liquid. And I can use this liquid that they've been soaking in because they were washed and then they were just soaking in here. Okay. So let's make room. If I thought I was going to put the potatoes, I would have used a bigger pot, but that's okay. We're live, right? We're just going with the flow here. So it's all good. So the main thing is you want them to be covered by the sauce. And we're going to let those go till they're almost fully cooked. And then we're going to add those vegetables. And then we're going to finish with our seasoning. Okay. So if you needed to add a little bit of liquid, you could add a little bit of that. Okay. Not too much though, just enough to kind of cover it. because if you add too much, it'll thin down your sauce, and then you'll have to reduce the sauce to get that thickness back. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. And that's ready to go. So did you take my lid, huh?
Yeah.
Look how efficient you are. I need it, please. I'm going to put it back on. Thank you. Okay, so same thing. We're going to let this kind of go on. I'm going to start it up a little higher and then bring it down. Okay. Is that the timer already? Oh, no, 2 minutes. You might have to run and go get a thermometer, my dear. Upstairs, maybe?
Rose
Yeah.
just asked, are they raw?
Oh, the potatoes?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. The potatoes are raw. Yep, all they are is, she might have missed the beginning there. So they were peeled and cubed into quite large chunks. Yeah, absolutely raw. We want them to cook in the sauce because what will happen is the potatoes will pick up flavor from the sauce. And then the potatoes will add a little starchiness and kind of help thicken the sauce as well. So they're both kind of contribute to the overall dish. Okay. So Laura's just run to get a thermometer because we're going to check the focaccia. Because those of you that tuned in for the simple no knead focaccia on Monday, one of the best tips I have for bread making, or in this case, like a thick focaccia, is when you think it's ready and you're not sure, the best thing to do is to put an internal thermometer in the thickest part of it. And the inside of the bread should be around 205 degrees Fahrenheit or hotter. And then you know it's not dough in the middle, it's not raw, that it's fully cooked, okay? So that's just a fantastic tip because with the bread, if you, or rather when you take it out of the oven, you should be cooling it on a rack. Let it cool completely on a rack, and then once it's cool, you can cut into it. Now, if you happen to cut into it and it's still raw or still kind of doughy in the middle, there's really not a lot you can do to save it because it's already cooled off. You can't really, you could put it back in the oven, but it's never going to have a bread-like texture. It's going to be kind of stuck in the middle. So that's a really great tip that I love because a lot of recipes will say, you know, to tap the bottom to make sure it sounds hollow. Well, if you're a new bread baker, you may not know exactly what you're looking for. So I love that tip. It just makes it a little easier, especially after, you know, with a traditional kneaded bread, you do a lot of work to do that. The last thing you want is to not have any success. So, okay, so we're going to give this a little stir, and we can see our potatoes are nice and covered by the sauce. We're getting a little bit, I'm going to try and show you the bubbles that are happening here. So like I said, we are investing in a second camera. So what we're going to do is we're going to have it set up right on the cooktop, either above, somewhere close by, so that Stefano will be able to switch between the cameras. Just because this has come up and, you know, we weren't prepared, we're just kind of running with it. So please be patient as we go, but I can guarantee you it's only going to get better. Okay, and hopefully the microphone is better for you now. How many viewers do we have? Did we get everybody back?
8.
Oh, okay, excellent. Do we know if everybody came back?
I would assume so.
Hopefully they could hear me saying that we were having issues and we were going to come back. Okay. So for those of you that are new to Natalina's Kitchen, my cookbook is available on the website at natalinaskitchen.com. Oh, where's our thermometer? Okay. This recipe is not in there, but there's a lot of great recipes in there, and we'll ship anywhere in Canada or the US. Okay. So what did I say? It's in 74 degrees. Oh yeah. Why don't we put it down? Here, let's move this so they can see. So we're going to go right in the middle here. And actually, there we go. We're at 206, 207 degrees Fahrenheit. So it is cooked. And when you pull it out, you could always check too to see that it's not sticky. Okay. So there you have it. Our focaccia that we actually made like a little low profile bread out of. And this was the dough that we did the other day. Let's grab a rack. We'll put it on a rack.
Rose says she needs Laura in the kitchen to help her.
Yeah, she's a great helper.
And Stu said this is awesome.
Stu? Is it Stuart Manley?
I think it might be Bill's uncle.
Ah, okay. not to burn myself. And
Although I may be wrong.
actually, I don't know if you guys could hear that. Oh, it's really nice. It's got a really nice grip to it.
If you sit it near the mic.
Here, okay. Laura, do you want to go bring it near the mic with the oven mitt though, so you don't burn yourself out? We want me to do it? See if we can get some sound. Oh, actually, the mic's right here. Can you guys hear that?
How did you do that?
Oh, yeah. So there we go. Okay, so that'll go really well with this tonight. Okay, so it's boiling kind of hard here. And actually, now you can see the oil has started to separate and it's pooled on the top. You're not going to be able to see that when I flip this, but there's all an oil pool there. So the oil's separated from the sauce. Typically for tomato-based sauces, that'll happen when everything's cooked, okay? So now, why don't we get our thermometer? Because we said 74 degrees Fahrenheit. Or no, 74 degrees Celsius. Go in the thickest part of that thigh there. Yeah, right. I'm metric for some things and imperial for others.
Stu
Yeah,
said,
there we go.
you sound great. Steph needs more cameras, no doubt. And Natalina really steals the show.
Oh, well, thank you. Okay, so there we go. So we're well into like 180 degrees Fahrenheit. So our chicken is fully cooked through now, which is awesome. Okay, so let's finish it now. We're going to add our veggies and we're going to season this. So now I'm just going to get rid of that. You can get rid of our lid as well, please. Thanks, hon. So who thinks that Stefano should make an appearance? He's smiling. He's just hiding behind the camera there. So okay, so now we've got that mixed in. I'm going to check our potatoes. So our potatoes should be fork tender. We know our chicken's cooked. The other vegetables are cooked because we did them in the pan. Excuse me, Laura. We're going to check our potatoes. And the potatoes, you don't want to overcook them because then they'll start to fall apart. And actually they're a little bit hard still, so they're going to continue to cook, and that's okay because those flavors from the mushrooms and the peppers will kind of meld in. Okay, but I want to finish the seasoning now. So, okay, so you have a couple of choices. You could do dry herbs. So if we were going to do oregano, we would do a few pinches of oregano.
So
And
Angela asks, is the base of this recipe similar to chicken puttanesca?
no, puttanesca is a little bit different. Chicken cacciatore is super simple. Cacciatore is a hunter, so it's like hunter chicken. Okay, so basically, when hunters were out hunting, they would, kill the chicken, and then basically skin it and prepare it with, just a few simple little ingredients, and that's really where it's originated from. I know the French have a similar one. And typically, traditionally, it would be the flavor base, the garlic, the onions, the tomatoes, the chicken, the wine, some herbs. The other additions, I always like to put sweet pepper in it if I have it. I don't always put mushrooms in them if I don't have them. And I don't always put potatoes in them as well. So it's kind of a spin or on a classic chicken cacciatore. Okay, so I put a little bit of oregano in there. I can smell it out. We had to add our seasoning. So if you can grab me, oh, here it is, the salt and pepper. So, okay, so we've got a few pounds, or a couple pounds anyways, of chicken. So we're going to need, we already seasoned the chicken, but there's a lot of sauce and everything in there. So I'm going to do about 3 pinches of salt. We're going to add a little bit of pepper.
And her version of a pinch is a heavy pinch.
Yes, my pinches are, when I'm teaching in person in my classes, students will say a regular pinch or a Natalina pinch. So that was a Natalina pinch. A Natalina pinch is about a 1/4 teaspoon, just so you know. Okay, but we've got 4 potatoes in here. We've got 1 really large carrot. We've got garlic clove. We've got a whole 28 ounces of tomatoes. We have a whole orange sweet pepper. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff in here. And I've been teaching since 2011. And I have to say, the biggest thing that people learn when they're here is how to season properly. Most people, most students will say that they've been under seasoning. Because remember, seasoning salt will bring the flavor out. Okay, so we need to taste and adjust our seasoning. Oh, this is my picky child. She doesn't want to taste. Oh, it's not good for the show, Laura. Okay, so Stefano, do you want to taste?
Rose said she doesn't really like plum tomatoes.
Doesn't she?
Stewed tomatoes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, these are. Here you go. Taste it and tell me what you think. It tastes really good. You sure you don't want to taste it? It's really good, Laura. Yeah, you could certainly use stewed tomatoes, like your own homemade ones. Is that what you mean? I have some of my own homemade ones as well. Oh, thank you. So Stefano's off camera, but he's tasting. What do you think, Steph? Does it need any seasoning?
No, it's quite good.
It's good, eh? So I think it's good for salt and pepper. So I did 3 pinches. So that was, excuse me. And the pepper made me sneeze. I did about, what did I say? A quarter teaspoon each pinch. So 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt and about a quarter teaspoon of pepper. Okay. So we're going to continue just to let those potatoes to continue to cook. If you want to add a little bit of heat, I like to add a little bit of heat. So I've got some crushed chilies here. So I'm going to add just a pinch of those. Okay. Just to finish. And keep in mind too that if you don't have a lot of herbs right now, or even if say you don't have garlic or whatever, remember you can always make up for flavor with a little bit of spice. You could always use a hot sauce if you don't have chilies, if you wanted to add a little bit of spice. Okay, so there you have it. So unless anybody's got any questions, we are all wrapped up and ready to go. Excuse me, that pepper's gotten me today. So we're ready to go here. I'm just gonna basically cover that up and just kind of let it sit there, and those potatoes will continue to soften up, and we're all ready to go. So I hope you enjoyed Chicken Cacciatore today. Like I said, I'm going to share this on Facebook. It'll also be on the YouTube channel. I have one small ask, and that is please, please, please subscribe to our YouTube channel because we're hoping to become a YouTube partner. I think we have about 230 subscribers. We need 1,000 to be a YouTube partner. And given that we have 0 revenue right now from our classes and no tours running in the spring, so we really are trying to engage with our clients. We're trying to help people learn to cook, stay in the kitchen. If we get a YouTube sponsorship, then we will get a tiny bit of revenue from advertisements on our videos, and that'll help us even pay for the ingredients when we're here with you. If you're interested in my cookbook, again, nataline'skitchen.com. We'll ship that anywhere in Canada and the US. Lots of great, simple recipes with a lot of pantry staples. And last but not least, our online school. I have 2 free courses right now, okay? So it's on the website. Online school, check out the 2 free courses. There's no obligation. Okay. So we will see you back later this week. Laura's going to try and stream sugar cookies for the kids. I'll be posting on Facebook. Otherwise, next week, we'll be doing these simple recipes again Monday and Wednesday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the kitchen.